I don't trust the Axis lock. Let me tell you why. Of all the folding knife locks I've tried, I really liked the Axis lock, but there's a problem. It has a major weak point, and that is the Omega springs. If you don't know how the Axis lock works, there is a lock bar here that holds the blade shut, and you can see it moving when I'm opening the knife, and it locks out and locks the blade. And to close the knife, you need to pull that bar down, and the blade can drop. Now that bar keeps tension by 2 Omega springs, one on either side. Those springs are the weak point, and if something is going to fail on this knife, it's the springs. For me, I had this bug out for about 6 months, and one of the springs broke. I barely used the knife as well. I carried it around the house sometimes, but really I rarely use it. And one day I put it down, pick it up, and noticed that one of the springs is broken. Now, because only one of the springs was broken, the knife wouldn't close. If both springs break, there's nothing keeping tension on the bar, and the blade can drop. There will be people that say this isn't an issue, and they never see the springs breaking, but go look up on Google Omega spring broken, and you'll see tons of people reporting that their springs broke. And then you have tons of people replying saying that they've had Omega springs break as well. So it's actually not that uncommon. If you don't believe me, go look it up for yourself. I'm trying to think if I did anything to induce the failure. I did open and close it here and there, even when I wasn't going to cut something, as I do with all my folding knives. But then I see that some people have had an Axis lock knife for over a decade, and they're still going strong with the original Omega springs. And my springs are breaking after only 6 months versus over 10 years of use. Something's not right here. And I never pushed down one side. I saw something about that once, and I always made sure to put equal pressure on either side. I'm not dissing Benchmade here either, and I'm not going to assume anything, but there's some possibilities. Maybe Benchmade started getting lower cost springs. Not saying that's the case. Or maybe occasionally there's a bad heat treat on the springs. That's totally possible. And you see this Omega spring issue a lot with the bug out model. Now there could be a few reasons for that, and people have their theories. Maybe the bug out, because it's so lightweight, uses a lighter spring, causing them to wear out faster. What I think is that you see it a lot with the bug out because that's their most popular knife. If someone's going to buy a Benchmade, they're probably going to get the bug out. So I think you see it a lot more with these because more people have them. Because I also see a ton of cases where people have knives like the 940 or the Griptilian, and they're breaking the springs as well. So it's not just the bug out. I actually ended up sending this in for repair to Benchmade through their warranty service, and they put new springs in it. So this one is fixed. I'm someone who wants to be able to service my own stuff if I can, and you can buy aftermarket springs for these. The reason I didn't is because I'm very much considering getting rid of this knife. And that's a shame because I really, really did like this knife. I wanted, if I am to sell it to the person that gets it, to have actual Benchmade springs versus some random springs I bought on the internet. Sending it in for warranty, Benchmade does have the warranty, which is great, but the problem is you have to send it in to get the spring fixed. So you have to pay shipping, you have to send it in, and it takes at least a couple weeks, depending on where you're sending it from. It's not a very quick process. And, paying shipping too, you can't be doing that if the springs keep breaking. Like, I've heard some people say they've had to send the knife in a few times. I mean, at that point, you're spending a lot of money on what should be a premium knife, and you're just wasting money at that point. There are new springs in this. How long will they last? 6 months? 10 years? That's the problem for me. That's the unknown. You don't know if the springs you have are good or not, or if they're going to last. And that's just not something I want to deal with. And that's why I don't trust the Axis lock. The irony of this knife is it's about the most I've ever paid for a knife, and it's the only one that has failed on me. So I figured I would give some alternatives to the bug out. If you're interested to buy the bug out, it's because you want an ultra lightweight knife that's good at slicing. So here are a couple knives that fit that role. Up first is the Ka-Bar Dozer, made in Taiwan, AUS 8 steel, lockback. I've used this knife for a while. It's solid. Next up is the Buck 112 Slim Select, made in the USA, lockback, I just recently got this one, so I can't say too much about it, but it's buck, and the bug out costs around 160 right now. These knives are under 30 bucks. Well, the buck is just about 30, and the dozer is just under that. I've seen them for 24, 26. They're under 30 for sure. Now, the lockback is not as fun as the Axis lock, but it's not going to fail like this one will. It's no triad lock, but lockbacks have been around forever. They're super reliable. Now, the bug out only weighs 1.9 ounces. Dozer is about 2.3, and the buck is about 2.5. So the bug out is lighter weight, but we're talking tenths of ounces here. It doesn't really matter that much. The biggest difference here, other than the price, is the steel. Benchmade uses S30V versus more basic AUS 8 and 420 HC. You'll definitely get better edge retention from the S30V, but I'll tell you what, the better I get at sharpening, the less I care for the steel used. Eventually, a knife like this will get dull, and when it does, all it takes is 1 or 2 minutes on a coarse stone and you're back to popping hairs. I think most people get carried away with the steels used. As long as it's not some no-name cheap steel and the heat treat is good, it's not going to be horrible. And to end it all, I'll say this. I'm not saying I'll buy another Benchmade, and I'm not knocking the company. But I will most likely never buy an Axis lock knife again. At least as long as Omega springs are used, because I just don't trust it.